How's it going? Welcome to mark making with a 3-round liner. These are the 4 types of marks we'll be making. There's the whip lines, 90-degree dots, cross hatching, and gradient. The idea is these are the 4 types of marks that I kind of use and use variations of them in all of the tattooing I'll be doing. I thought it'd be important to kind of see, get an understanding of the hand movement and what's going on. So the first one is the whip lining. I don't even know if that's the right term for this. It's just drawing quick lines. I used to cross hatch when I was young, and we'll get into that. That's just going different angles. But this whip lining, you kind of just in and then you whip it kind of out. And there's a texture, and you can see the dot patterns when you do this. And you can know whether to move your hand faster or slower, or turn your machine down or turn it up. And so when I get to scarring, I do this 90-degree dot pattern. So the idea is to go slower, methodical, and you can get the ink in there. Kind of dot it in. You've seen this before. This is common, but this is the technique I'll use when I go into scar tissue, because scar tissue is dense and doesn't want to hold the ink. You can get it down pretty quick. You're not going too deep. You're not holding it in there long. You're just taking your time and you're doing dots. And if you do it right, you can make it mimic the other dot patterns that you're doing. In fact, the dots on this fake skin are a little big, but on real skin, on scar tissue, they're much smaller because it doesn't hold as much ink. This next part here, this cross hatching, it's just the same. I'm doing the whip lining one direction, just like cross hatching. Then I'll go the opposite direction, like 90 degrees. And it's creating a pattern, but eventually you start to lose the pattern and you can see kind of a smoother blend. There's another direction and another 90 degrees from that direction. So that's 4 passes on this game. That's kind of a lot, but if you're careful and you're running your machine low, yeah, you see that pattern there. The skin should be okay. You'll know. You don't want it weeping or seeping. You don't want the needle to be going too deep. So gradient, this is just me doing the whip lining again, but I'm doing a little dense, a little closer towards one side, and then I'm starting to both speed up my hand movement and also pull out the depth just a little bit. And look, it's not exact. The cool thing about using a 3 is you can go back in the area because it's so detailed, so tiny. You can kind of tweak things. I know people that use magnums and they'll use a little 3 to fix detail in an area they might have missed, because you can trick and make it look smoother. And so in doing a gradient, it didn't look perfect the first pass, so I'm taking my time and kind of working it to make it look smoother. There it goes. I'm carving the edges there a little bit. Fading it a little quicker. Yeah. Awesome. So those are the 4 main marks. I just want you to see that. I think that's important. So just like we did in the end here, I want to show you about chipping in outlines. So instead of just pulling an outline, you can kind of chip it in like a sketch. And instead of outlining in the beginning, I tend to outline at the end here. So the whole leaf was kind of sketched in, and you can see the dot patterns, but the edges are soft. So finally at the end, see that? I'm drawing it a little bit. I drew that line. And then that one I'm kind of sketching that line in. Very tiny, tiny lines. Sometimes pulling a thick line is difficult, but you can do a bunch of tiny little lines really straight and all together. It's the same hand movement and gesture. And yeah, it really cuts the edge off there. Here you go, watch. It's that extra detail that people love, and it makes your tattoos pop. So there it goes. Because we're so gentle with it, you can do another pass on it, really clean it up. Much more crisp, much more exact. When you see me do tattoos, I tend to form a shape instead of just drawing outlines. So there's a little V here, and I'm going to use the whip lining there kind of shading it. And I'll be making a gradient here. Wipe it. And see, I didn't get all the way to the line on the left there, but because it's a 3, again, we can get close up to it and clean it up. I'll probably do that, I think, in the second pass after this one. There on the left, I'll just get, there it goes. Just real tiny, connect it. One quick fade here. There you go. So these smooth gradients like that, sometimes you get at the first pass, sometimes you need to do a little work and tweak it. But because you're using a 3, you can do that. Now, everything I just showed you, this is me working on a Rudite flower, and I'm using the same mark making, the same hatching, the same, there it goes, tiny little movements in the veins of the leaf. So I have that form, I have that shape. And usually when I start off, I don't pull in the pure darks right away. This is all usually midtones or lighter. There'll be some negative space darkness that I'll push in to see what it looks like. But there's the vein in the middle, the midrib. Here's more veins. You know, it's almost like an outline. It's like a sketch version of an outline. But instead of drawing the lines, you're getting dots to form the shape. There's a space above the leaf to the left. Yeah, I'm about to get it. I want to see that contrast, so I dipped into a darker wash, and I'm filling it in. Really, really stretching the skin. That's important. I want to deepen that edge, that contrast. So again, instead of outlines, you see that I'm using the contrast. I'm using the dark spots to push and pull and to form shapes. You can always outline at the end if you want.